In this video, we're going to talk about how to get access to a Linux server or a Linux machine. So normally you request an account. If you're at a university, oftentimes your professor gives you access to a Linux machine or a Linux server. At some universities you can request an account. If you're in the workplace and you need access to a Linux server for your work, you'll be granted access and an account. But if you're not at a university and you're not in a workplace, what do? I did look around for services that provide you free shell accounts, and I just didn't see anything that I thought would be better than the alternatives that I discuss here. But do your own research. If you have a Mac, it's easy. You can just use the terminal application, and that gives you command line access to a Unix machine. Now, Unix and Linux are different, but they're very similar. If you have a Mac or a Windows machine, you can run a version of Linux or a Linux distribution as a virtual machine. To do this, you need to download a player. VirtualBox is an example. You can download VirtualBox, and then you download a virtual machine of the Linux distribution that you want to run on your laptop, and then VirtualBox will run it. And so it will look like you're running Linux on your laptop, although it's actually running as a software layer on top of your operating system, whether it's Windows or Mac OS. And this is an intermediate or easy way of getting access to a Linux machine on your laptop. And it's not very risky because it runs as software on top of your operating system, and it should not affect any of the files that you have on your laptop. You can also create what's called a live Linux USB or a live Linux DVD. And this is primarily for Windows. I didn't find any information about how to do this using a Mac. You download an image of a Linux distribution, and then you store it on a DVD or on a USB, and then you can boot the Linux operating system from the USB or the DVD. It runs instead of your Windows operating system. This is a great way to try things. There's one disadvantage. Because it is running from a DVD or a USB, you cannot store applications or store data. When you halt the Linux machine, then all of your data and applications that you installed disappear. But again, this is a great option for trying Linux to see if you like it. If you have a Windows machine, you can install what's called the Windows Subsystem for Linux. This could be easy or difficult depending on whether you're a member of the Windows Insider program. Effectively, Linux runs as an application on the Windows operating system. Finally, you can install Linux directly on your laptop, whether you have a Mac or whether you have a Windows machine. Now, this is an advanced option, and you need to use caution because there is the risk that you could erase all of the information on it. And you have two options. You can either dual boot, and this means that you can run Windows or Linux side by side, or Mac OS and Linux side by side. Call this dual boot. When you boot your machine, you're given the opportunity to select which operating system you want to run. To do this, it requires modifying what's called the partition table, and if something goes wrong, it can damage your disk and you can lose your data. Then, of course, you can choose to install Linux on the laptop and overwrite the operating system, whether it's Mac OS or Windows. Clearly, this is going to destroy all the information on your hard drive, so you need to use caution. If you decide to play around with this, make sure that you have backups of everything. A better option would be to find an old or a secondary laptop that you're not using, and then you can try it out without worrying that you're going to lose all of your data. To conclude, these are some options you have for getting access to a Linux server or a Linux machine.